We're going to start with you, okay?
Yep. All right, we're on YouTube Live.
We're going to start with you, okay?
Yep. All right, we're on YouTube Live. Good evening, Yorktown. This is Supervisor Matt Slater coming to you from our town boardroom. We have a very special panel that I'm very excited to introduce. We have Councilman Ed Lachterman, a small business owner. We have good evening, Yorktown. I don't know where we're having double from our town boardroom. We have a very special panel. Here it is. Okay. And also, I'm sorry about that, gentlemen. So we also have with us Executive Vice President of the Business Council of Westchester, John Ravitz. We have our county legislator from the 4th District, Vidat Ghashi. And we have the President of the Yorktown Chamber of Commerce, Sergio Esposito. I want to thank everyone for joining us this Friday evening, for spending some time with us. We really wanted to provide an update for everyone at home because the federal government has approved the second round of funding for their PPP program. And so we wanted to talk about some of the updated parameters of that program and also provide some insight on some of the work that's being done on the county and the local level as we begin to reimagine or reboot our local and regional economies. And with that, I'm going to see Councilman Lachterman. Do you want to kick us off? I think you're muted. He is muted. Okay. How about John Ravitz from the Business Council of Westchester? We're really thrilled to have you here. Business Council obviously is one of the regional drivers economically in Westchester County. Why don't you give us a synopsis as to what you're seeing from an economic standpoint for our businesses in the region?
Well, Matt, thanks for having me, and you're doing a fantastic job. And I'm sure you never imagined year one of your first term that you'd be dealing with a pandemic that has basically paralyzed the world.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing now is businesses having to do things and start thinking about a reemergence that 7 weeks ago would never have even been in anyone's thoughts and minds. So it's been a very, very difficult time for everyone. The business community in Westchester County, though, is strong in terms of the fact that they understand that we're not going to do this alone. We're not going to do this in silos. We're going to really have to work as a county and as a state and as a region to bring the economy back in a smart way, in a way that is always going to put the protection and health and safety of our employees as our top priority. But this is going to be a slow process. And I don't think any of us tonight can even begin to think about what 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks are going to look like in the future. But what we can do is continue to work with our businesses, make sure they're getting all the information that you're providing for your constituents and for your local businesses, make sure they know who they should be reaching out to, and help them navigate through this maze of what they're going to have to do, whether it's applying for the PPP or other grants that might be coming down the pike.
I'm live now too, Matt.
Oh, perfect. And Councilman Lachterman, I know you're a small business owner down in White Plains. You did apply for the PPP loan, correct?
That is correct. I did. The PPP loan, and I did end up getting funded for that last week, on about actually a week ago today. So it is out there. I know that some of the money that was taken by some of the bigger corporations has been given back, which will add another kick into that. I do want to take a second just to thank John and Sergio. I've been getting a lot of information from both Business Council of Westchester, since I'm a member there, as well as the Yorktown Chamber, which I'm a member of, and the information has been great and very helpful. I also, I wanted to give like a little perspective, since I'm in a service industry. We own a massage studio, Carol and I, down in White Plains. I've spent a lot of time talking to my clients and reaching out to them on a one-on-one basis. And we've been getting a great response on how They're here to support business. You know, I think in Westchester, our base is not going away. The consumers really appreciate the services that they get. They've all been reaching out to see what they can do to help. We've had a lot of first responders that are really in need of a massage from our point of view, and they tell us this. So it's very, very heartwarming for me to know that we should be able to reopen with people that are eager to get out there and support our businesses. So that's that was a really good vibe that I've had over the last few days from the people I'm talking to.
That's great.
And Ed, congratulations on getting the funding. I think, Matt, the biggest thing that we saw with the first stimulus package or the first wave of the PPPs were that the Congress wanted to get this done quickly for all the right reasons. But by doing it so quickly, the thing they forgot to think about was the back end and the infrastructure that financial institutions needed to have in place before people started filing the applications. And whether you were Chase or a small community bank, you were all in the same situation, that you weren't prepared for the thousands and thousands of applications that came in as soon as everyone said press send. Hopefully in this new $350 billion package, in which 320 billion of that is going into the PPP program, that infrastructure now has been built. And so people are not going to get the frustration that they felt over the course of the application process. But I think, again, as I've said, we're in uncharted waters, so we'll just have to see.
The important thing is that everyone should check their application status, because a lot of our members, their application, they received a notice that they needed more information. Now that the program has kicked in again, the application process has resumed again at your local bank. And so what's happening is if they were missing information, and you might be, because they're categorizing it into 4 stages. So stage 2 is the payroll review portion. Stage 3 is when it sends to the SBA for approval. And so you might be in stage 2, even though your friend or your next door neighbor business applied after you, and they may have had their stuff together. And so you might be in phase 2. You might not even know that there's a problem. I know a lot of people have received a notice saying, hey, listen, we couldn't verify payroll or something to that effect. Reapply, but you won't lose your spot in line. And so, you want to make sure you reapply. This time we're getting another 320 billion. 60 billion of it is earmarked for smaller lending institutions. So the mom and pop kind of banks, even though they're not mom and pop, they got a lot of money, but they're not the Chases of the world. And so what'll end up happening is that's earmarked for them. So that leaves about 250 billion for the bigger banks. Last go around, there were 1.6 million loans issued. And I know people are upset. I was a little upset about how that rolled out a little bit with, these bigger companies kind of getting their piece of the pie that really, I didn't think they really should have, because I thought the loan was more for the mom and pops. But always remember, on the lighter side of that it's still keeping people, off of unemployment and on the payroll. And that really was the intention of it all. So yeah, I mean, there's always plus and minuses, and nobody always likes everything about it. But check with your bank. Log into your banking portal. You might have a message there, that's saying, hey, you know what? We need more information. You're stuck. You ain't moving. We need more info. And then to get that going along, because they're going to run out of money again.
Yeah, I mean, one of the lessons that I think we've heard from members who have gone through this process is how important it was for them to have already had a good relationship with their banks. Their banks knew who they were. Their banks knew what their fiscal situation was like, so that some of the problems that Sergio just mentioned didn't happen, and they knew who to reach out to immediately. So if there's any lessons learned from this whole situation, is when we reemerge, that should be a priority for every business to really begin to develop that strong line of communications with your local bank.
Yeah, it's a great point. When you talk about reemerging, that's something that I think we're really starting to focus on here in the town of Yorktown. And I know in partnership with County Legislator Gashi, something that we continue to hear our officials on the county level talk about. I'm really interested, John, from your standpoint, are you seeing anything, any early indicators as to what we may be able to get ahead of the curve on?
Well, Matt, I think one of the things that the governor's done a really good job on is framing how we are going to reemerge. And I think one of the things that he's put together with his New York Forward. Uh-oh.
Oh, we're okay. We got you.
Okay. Because my screen just went to somebody else's screen.
Yeah, it's the host. The host.
Okay.
The host screen. She just.
The New York Forward plan that the governor is beginning to implement, and the county exec's Westchester Forward plan. It's going to be very important to identify those industries that are deemed essential that should be able to get back to work once the testing has been put into place. And today, the Business Council of Westchester announced that we have created the Westchester Economic Recovery Task Force.
Yep, I saw
which is really going to be laser focused on working with industry leaders of all different sectors to come up with those recommendations, to share that with the state, to share that with the county, to again put that game plan in place. But again, all of these industries are going to have to start thinking about what they are going to need to come out, and also in terms of what suggestions that they have for the state, and again, support that they're going to need from the state and from the county governments to do that as well.
Yeah, and I would also, if I could also add local government, because you want to be a part of that conversation, obviously, and I can tell you that we've in the town of Yorktown, we've started this Reboot Yorktown task force, which sounds nearly identical to what you're talking about, and Sergio's on it, and County Legislator Gashi's on it, and we've got some really great people from around the community who are providing some great insight. Our town planners on it, our town engineers on it. My town planners on it, and other members of our staff. But it's understanding how to set the table, so when we do reemerge, we're doing it in a productive way. And so I'm just, we're always looking for ways to get ahead of the curve. And so any way that local government can be part of that conversation, please, if I can be of any assistance, or Councilman Lachman, who's one of your members, can be of any assistance, know you can always call on us.
No, thank you. We will be calling, because again, you guys are really at the local level where you're interfacing with your businesses on a daily basis. And so we're going to want to get that buy-in. We're going to want to hear the feedback. We want to hear the suggestions, because again, it's going to be very important to document that as we put this. It's going to be a new playbook.
Yeah, exactly.
For the county and for the state, and that's going to be important for us to really make sure that we are reaching out to all the key stakeholders to put that playbook together.
Absolutely. I can tell you that some of the things that we're looking at short term, we have short term, long term. We're going to be looking at providing some additional assistance to encourage more outdoor dining. I mean, our restaurants are really struggling here in the town of Yorktown, and eateries, and so we're working on a way to streamline that process and exploring potentially even reducing the fees associated with that application process. One of the things that we started working on today is a pre-application workshop, and actually creating a portal on our website so that an applicant can come in and they can actually request that pre-application workshop with specific department heads, depending on what their needs are. So we started creating that portal today. There's a lot of exciting things. We're looking at, development overlay districts in specific areas in town that correspond with our comprehensive plan, which is great. So, we're trying to be very aggressive right now, because the way I see it, and until someone changes my mind, I think we're on our own. I think you're hearing some really poor rhetoric out of the federal government right now. when it comes to states and local governments. I don't think we can rely on their support. And fact of the matter is, and County Legislator Gashi can jump in on this because he's dealing with it on the county level, we're facing significant revenue shortfalls. And so the only way that we're going to be able to make up for that is by growing our economy. And so we're trying to just find every tool that we can, either in the tool belt or the tool shed, and get it out in front and dust it off and utilize it.
Yeah, I mean, we want to, one of the things that we talked about in the Reboot Yorktown Task Force is being absolutely, proactive and ready, with these new ideas. For example, the outside dining. One of the ideas behind that is, what we're probably going to see is a slow opening, just like we slowly closed, right? It was like one thing, then, bit by bit. And that's probably how we're going to open up. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that if the future looks like a restaurant is going to be able to open and have dining, seating and stuff like that, it's probably not going to be 100%. So if you have a 100 room capacity, you might only be able to have 25 people in the dining area, let's say hypothetically. These are all hypothetical numbers, at which point you're at 25% capacity. It's something, but restaurants won't be able to survive at that level. So with the outdoor dining as an additional idea for them and a quick application process, they might be able to seat more people and maintain the social distancing protocols, which is so vitally necessary.
I agree. County Legislator Gashi, what are you seeing at a county government right now? Is there, I know that the county executive has been talking about a budgetary shortfall, something that governments across the state and frankly across the country are facing. I know that you also, through your leadership and partnership, we were able to advocate for some tax relief for struggling small businesses that the county executive implemented in partnership with the governor. Would you like to discuss that and expand on that for us, please?
Yeah. And thank you again for inviting me here. I appreciate the opportunity. Want to echo what you just said. We've had some wonderful cooperation and work across the aisle, across political parties, and I think in an effort to respond to this crisis. And I think it's commendable. So thank you for the work you've done. And we're certainly not all the way there yet, but we're getting there. So I think a lot's moving. We'll get back to the property tax question and the relief that we're providing there. But I think a lot of this is moving quickly. The CARES Act, it's a huge document. I think very few people have actually read it. What I'm finding is a lot of the questions that come to me are really nuts and bolts. To the extent that I can answer them, I do. But I love to lean on other resources like the Business Council. Thank you, John. The Economic Development, the Office of Economic Development, Bridget Gibbons, the work they've done. And I think my job, as I've seen it during this phase, is in addition to working towards a lot of the strategic questions, more so working on logistical questions. People asking questions like, hey, I applied for 10,000, but I only got 2,000, or I'm not hearing back from this bank. What do I do? And the advice, coming back that, oh, maybe you should try another bank and explore those options. So I think my most important takeaway is that we here in government, be it the town level, the county level, be it organizations like the Business Council or the Chamber or the Yorktown Small Business Association, there are resources here. There are people that are paying attention and are able to answer that. And people shouldn't hesitate to reach out, because that's really, we're all figuring it out together, to be perfectly blunt. I think we've got this stimulus package, there's likely a third one coming, and there's talk of a fourth one. A lot of the, unfortunately, under the current setup, it looks like a lot of the towns, the local municipalities are being asked to do a lot of the heavy lifting, and that comes at a cost. And how do we how do we get through that? I think in part to address the crisis at the individual level and the base and the business level, we set up a plan whereby, well, first off, the county legislature passed a bill to reduce the late fees across the board to start off with to 0.5%. In an effort to go further, the county executive and others, including ourselves, argued very strongly in favor of not instituting any late fees for people during this important phase. What ended up happening is a bifurcation, basically setting up a system where if you qualify for exemption, and that's pretty easy. If you have a hardship and you are within that group, you will not have a late fee or a penalty. And if you don't, you're going to be going off into that lowered penalty schedule. Now, it's not super complicated, but I'd probably it'd probably benefit from having it in front of my face. And I think there's a great pamphlet going around with the instructions on who could qualify and how. Do you want to go on and explain a little bit better?
Yeah, sure. So all this information for everyone is right on the Town of Yorktown website, which is right at your fingertips. It's on multiple pages. It's on the tax receivers page. It's on my supervisor page, on the COVID-19 page, on the home page. I mean, you really can't miss it. And so really the way that it's broken out right now is for, I really want to focus on businesses right now. So if your net income is under $1 million in 2019 and you provide certification to the Town of Yorktown, those forms are online right now in both English and Spanish. You provide certification that your income was impacted by COVID-19. Then you can defer your taxes until the date of July 15th. If your net income is greater than $1 million in 2019, then unfortunately it doesn't apply to you. Instead, you can focus on the non-hardship reduction in penalty, which for the month of May is 0.5%, 0.5% through May, and 1% from June 1st to July 15th. And July 15th is the date that is being used because that also puts us in sync with the extensions for the state and federal income taxes. And that date was extended to July 15th as well. For homeowners, for residents, if you qualify for STAR and you are not paying your taxes through an escrow, you pay directly to the town, and you certify through the form online that your income has been impacted due to the coronavirus. Again, you submit the certification form and then we'll provide that extension to July 15th. That's for homeowners. And then for individual taxpayers with rental properties, if you have 6 or less units and you certify that 50% of your rates have not been paid, and that's a direct result of tenants losing employment due to coronavirus pandemic, then you can also defer to the July 15th deadline. Important to note, though, that again, this only applies if you're not paying through escrow, if you're paying directly to the town. So that's how it's set up. If you don't meet the hardship requirements, though, there is that significantly reduced penalty for the months of May and June up to July 15th. And again, all the information that you could need is right on the Town of Yorktown's website. And I encourage anyone who needs it to please take advantage of it. If you have any questions, you can call me directly here at Town Hall. It's 914-962-5722, extension 200. Again, that's 962-5722, extension 200. Or you can also call our tax receiver, Barbara Korsak, who's been fantastic, her and her staff. And they're at 962-5722, extension 212. And you can call them directly and they can provide all this information and answer any of your questions. And we have been getting a lot of calls. I was with them earlier today several times. And they are getting a lot of calls, just getting clarification. Again, the deadline remains April 30th unless you receive a hardship extension, and that can be accomplished in multiple ways as we just described. But I want to also, if we can, Councilman Lachterman, as a small business owner, I'm just curious as to what else do you think that we could be doing on the local level to support our Main Street businesses during this crisis?
You know, the biggest issue is going to be the reopening schedule. I think that the town chamber working together, figuring out, like Sergio just mentioned, capacity of restaurants, stores, trying to, work out a plan and get that information out there. My biggest thing as a property owner or a business owner is that I'm looking to get where I need to get, and I want to make sure that we're following the safety protocols and guidance of what the state is looking for. We want to be responsible in it. So getting that communication back at us is huge.
Yeah. As part of the, I'm curious with anyone on joining us today, as part of the reopening process, I mean, John, I'm curious, have you heard of businesses doing work with the antibody tests or anything like that as part of their reopening process?
Well, some are, some have already put in some procedures. We created another coalition during this last 2 legislative sessions when we were dealing with the prevailing wage legislation, the Coalition for Smart Development. And a lot of our developers and in the construction industry have already put together some procedures in place to test their workers on a daily basis. But look, I think the key is going to be for Ed and for other businesses, we're going to have to raise people's confidence.
Yeah.
People are going to have to feel confident that they're not putting themselves or their families at risk. And that's going to mean, again, developing a plan that everyone not only understands, but will implement. I think if you had said 6 weeks ago that New York State and New York City would shut down, people would have thought you were smoking something funny. But people very quickly understood the ramifications of what we were dealing with, and have complied with the new regulations that have been put in place.
Yeah,
we need to take that commitment, and we need now to flip it almost, so that when we do start the reemergence, people feel that there is and feel confident with the plans that are being rolled out because the safety and health procedures are in place. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy.
That's a good point. I'm sorry, go ahead, Matt.
No, go ahead, Serge, please.
That's a good point, because I think if we could instill the confidence, I mean, one of my greatest concerns is all of these deferments are fantastic. And the problem is that if we don't get this moving in the safest possible way and instill the confidence that John is speaking about, you're just kicking the can down the road. And what's going to end up happening is these businesses, people, they're all going to come out owing 3 car payments, 3 months of rent. I mean, and then you're in a hole that is just an entirely different animal that you're going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think, Matt, what we could do as part of the Reboot Yorktown is come up with some guidelines of our own for town. Just, not put them out right away, but start thinking about some guidelines that will, John, that's a great point, instill confidence in people when things start to open up, and they will. I mean, I think we're kind of slowly churning in that direction, and of course, I don't want anybody to misconstrue that, I don't want it to be the safest possible way. Of course, everybody does. I think that's a given. So, but it, might be a good idea for us to brainstorm some of our own guidelines that coincide with, social distancing and federal guidelines, federal and state guidelines.
But I think,
I'm
Sergio, to your point,
I'm really worried about people that when we come out of this, I mean, you're going to just be in debt, and I think that's worse. I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
No, but to your point, Sergio, that's where I think getting those real concrete suggestions and ideas to the county and to the state are going to be so important. Because look, again, you guys are the ones who are on the front lines. And so to be able to say, and you know your customers, you know what's going to get them to be able to feel that they can return to normal and go into your business. And the only way to do that is to really, again, have these procedures in place and give people enough time to digest them, understand them, and then hopefully trust them. And that, again, is going to be all of our responsibilities to do. And to do it in a responsible way. Matt, you said it so well. I mean, one of the things that government needs to be able to do now is rise to the occasion. I want, I congratulate the county exec and the board of legislators for the tax relief program. We were a little concerned, quite frankly, when the board tried to, pull it in the amendment, the first wave of amendments, because we thought, again, it was just the wrong message to send to small businesses. So I'm glad that this compromise could be put in place. I think giving businesses that July 15th relief is going to be important, as well as to taxpayers as well. But boy, oh boy, I mean, I've been in government for 30 years. I was still in the state assembly during 9/11. And one of the things I'll always remember about that was we were out of session after 9/11, but the governor called us back that the Monday after it happened. And as I was driving up the thruway, I was wondering, how are we going to work as a government in a bipartisan way to get through this? And I was so happy that Albany can be, as you know, Matt, can be a partisan cesspool.
Yes, it can.
But as we were reemerging from 9/11, people put that behind them and really worked together to, again, do what had to get done to bring people back and to get businesses open, et cetera. This is going to be just as a Herculean effort. And what we can't have is government standing in the way or posturing or pontificating. We need government to understand that this is such a critical time in people's lives if we're going to have them move forward and get through this, they have to be proactive and, again, in that responsible manner.
Couldn't agree with you more.
I need to jump back in with this though, and it's something I left out on my little thing about waiting for the guidance and what we could do. But just so you know, we're looking at our own ideas. We're not sitting back and waiting for the government, but we want to make sure that we could get a plan on our own, a plan with the government, and put it together. And hopefully, my business and like restaurants, personal services, it's really a two-way street. It's not only about the clients. My staff has to be very comfortable coming back.
Sure.
Yeah. And I heard that from some of our local restaurants. They didn't close. Some of our local restaurants didn't close because they couldn't keep open. They closed out of fear because their staff just couldn't do it anymore. They were just as panicked as their customers were.
Yeah.
So Ed, I'm curious because, again, the state of Georgia has been in the news the last few days with their reopening, and obviously one of the industries that they said could be reopened was massage parlors. Have you heard anything from
studios?
Ed, what are you doing?
Studios. But have you heard anything from any of the your colleagues in that part of the country? I mean, how they have implemented and what they have done to try to be ready to open up?
Well, I know. So we're independently owned and operated, but we're part of a corporate chain with 260 different studios. So we've been on calls talking about what do we think is needed. So, barrier sheets, we're talking about getting rid of like the blankets. We're talking about masks, gloves, temperature checks. We already had a high standard of universal precautions because that's the business we're in. And it's the same in the restaurants. Hopefully you have, especially in your kitchens, a high level of universal precautions, but now how do you bring that out into the dining room? How do you shrink your station charts? How do you make sure your tables are being sanitized properly? How do you teach that 17-year-old kid the importance of a quad sanitizing solution and changing a bucket out because the shelf life on that sanitizer is an hour to an hour and a half and it loses its effectiveness. So there's a tremendous amount of information that, we're going to have to put out to our people. And in the area of like for massage, I know that there's a lot of guidance coming out that is stuff that we do already, but how can you step that up? So I do know the temperature checks was something that our people were talking about. I don't know about the average massage studio. The tattoo parlors were opening up as well. Are they sitting in that situation? Are they going to do temperature checks? I'm not sure. I would, for the safety of my staff, I want to do that. And then we've also, someone temps out at 100 degrees or more, if it's a staff member, we'll cancel their appointments for the day and let the people know they're going home, and vice versa. If it's a client, we'll ask them to reschedule till a date just to be on the safe side.
We've instituted temperature checks at all of our town buildings for our employees now. That's been going on for well over a week, and I was frankly a little hesitant because I wasn't sure what the pushback was going to be, but it's been embraced because they actually, they feel more comfortable coming to work, knowing that that everyone's being checked, and that if someone is, does have a fever or an elevated temperature, that at least that they know about it, and B, it's being handled properly. So I've been surprised, maybe I'm pleasantly surprised, to be honest with you.
And Matt, who's doing that? I mean, do you have who have you assigned to really?
Yeah, sure. So we've designated 2 people within each building, and we have a log. So the person comes in. It's a scan. It's one of the scan ones, and so you scan your forehead when you come in. You're putting down your name, you're putting down your temperature, you're signing it, and then the person who observes it signs it as well, just as a secondary set of eyes. And again, I was a little hesitant in how the reception was going to be, but people have really felt more comfortable knowing that the person who's in the building with them is healthy. And so you're protecting your employees, you're giving, like we said earlier, you're giving them the confidence and peace of mind. And I think we're going to take it to another step next week. We're going to be talking about some things that we're going to be talking about, hopefully at the next town board meeting, possibly. We're still exploring a couple of options, but when we come up with these ideas, I think
the antibody test you spoke.
What's that, Councilman?
I think you spoke about the antibody test, and I think that is a huge thing. I think it's very important, and like you said, it's peace of mind for employees working.
We're exploring that, and we're exploring. There's some legal issues that we have to hurdles that we just got to put down. But if everything checks out, it's going to be another service we're going to offer our staff. This way, again, more peace of mind. I've gone around, I've talked to, a handful, maybe about a dozen different employees. And every time I expect pushback, they say, no, we'd want it. I'd like to know if I had this. And so again, it's peace of mind for themselves, knowing whether or not they have the antibody, but also peace of mind because if they're sharing an office potentially with somebody or someone on their staff, they're going to know. And then if they are negative, they know additional precautions are going to have to be taken, and they have to going to be much more vigilant because they don't have the antibodies to fight it off. So we'll see. I mean, I think that's something that the board hopefully is going to be in a position to make a decision on late next week and try to implement. I think we'll be the first municipality actually to do that. But it's good for our employees, so why wouldn't we?
And circling back to the businesses, Ed, putting the businesses could grab the bull by the horns and implement their own safe practices. The question then is going to be, how do we get those safe practices out there so people can see what each business is doing as a safety level?
Yeah,
so,
sure.
So the chamber could. I'm gonna think about that, Matt. And Matt, I got to be honest. Kudos to you for bringing guys like Rich Fawn, who had the idea to have people come outside and dine outside, because that's one of those things that'll instill confidence. A person might not want to go in and say, I'm not going inside, but hey, I'll stay outside. The weather's turning, and it's going to be nice. So, we're on it, so good job.
Well, it's just about bringing the right people to the table who are dealing with this. Rich is the chairman of our planning board. We had Gordon Fine, the chairman of our zoning board. I mean, these are all, important. They bring really important perspective to the conversation that some people just don't either have that perspective or knowledge base to be able to provide that advice to. So I think we put a very diverse but very knowledgeable team together to look at these issues and to make sure that we're setting the table so that when we reemerge, it's more about just a matter of pressing go and coming off the blocks as fast and hard as we can to instill that confidence, which I completely agree with, and just make sure that we're doing all we can from a governmental standpoint to support our local economy and get our businesses back running again. So, but it's good. And I just really want to thank everybody again for joining us. It's provided some really good insight for folks at home. It is Friday evening, so I don't want to keep anyone too late. And it is, of course, County Legislator Gashi's birthday. So I hope
Happy birthday.
you got some birthday cake waiting for you, buddy.
No big party this year, though. Sorry for that.
Yeah.
It's a Zoom party. This
That's it.
I'm treating this as my party. You guys might not realize it, but thank you.
Oh, boy.
There you go. Well, listen, I want to thank everyone for participating, for joining us, for sharing some of your knowledge with everyone. This is right now we're on YouTube Live for the first time ever for the town of Yorktown. It's also on our cable access channel as well as our website, and we'll be sharing it onto our YouTube and Twitter as well. And all this information is great. It's very helpful because, again, we do get these questions from our small business owners and our residents because they like to know what some of the information that is out there. It's been a lot of information coming fast and furious, and we do our best to provide valid and accurate information to folks at home. And so I don't know if Councilman, you want anything to add, and we'll go around real quick. Closing remarks.
Look, I just appreciate everything that our chamber, the business council, our local leaders are doing to really try to help guide people through this. It's so important, from that business owner side to know that you have a support net and that it's out there. So, just want to tell everyone, keep your chin up. We've battled a lot worse in our country, and we will keep battling. That's what America's all about. And, God bless everyone. Be well and be safe.
Thank you, Councilman. John?
Man, yeah, I think Ed said it all. I think, again, we need to do this together. We need to be able to talk about, really implement some of the things that were talked about today and use people's skills, expertise, not be afraid to think outside of the box in some of these ways. We encourage businesses to go to our website at thebcw.org because we're doing daily updates on hopefully information that will help them. And Matt, I just want to say again, I didn't mean to make light of it, but for someone who is serving his first term and having to deal with a situation like this, I really want to commend you for the leadership that you've shown, the fact that you have really rolled up your sleeves and have a daily presence in your community. That's going to be something that I think will make a difference in Yorktown. So congratulations.
John, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. County Legislator Gashi, closing remarks?
No, echo what everyone else said. I think I'd only add I'd again offer, if people do have a question, feel free to reach out. You can reach me at either gashi@westchesterlegislators.com or 914-995-2848. I might not have the answer, but I can send you to Sergio or John Ravitz in the Business Council, yourself, Matt. People shouldn't hesitate to reach out. So thank you.
Fantastic. From our birthday boy. All right, Sergio, last closing remarks from the Chamber of Commerce.
Well, happy birthday, Vidot. And the chamber is here. We've kind of been all hands on deck. As everybody knows, I kind of tore the walls down, expanded outside of our membership. My goal is to have 100% of the businesses that were in town when this pandemic hit come back. I know it's a tall order, but you know what? I like to set my aim high, and I'm trying to get as close as possible. If anybody needs anything, YorktownChamber.org. We have a support your local business page that we just put up. It's been up, and we have a COVID-19 update. If you need any help, advice, advertising, we're here for anybody and everybody in the community. Stay safe and hang in there. Better days are coming.
Sergio, thank you very much. Again, everyone at home, YorktownNY.org is our town website, a hub of information. We have our COVID-19 impact dashboard that provides almost daily updates as the numbers come in with confirmed cases, as well as any useful information from taxes to bulk pickup schedules to you name it, it's on there. So please use it as a resource. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy, make socially responsible decisions this weekend, and just know that your choices could be a matter of life and death for someone else. So keep up the great work, and we appreciate all your help and support during this trying time. Thanks so much. Have a great night.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, everyone.
You.